Okay, so today is our Thursday, wrap-up Thursday for working on projects that got away from us or we just never finished for whatever reason. So I am taking Thursdays and using them as my wrap-up day to go in and finish tons of paintings that I have started or got stuck on. So while Wednesdays are my new paintings, Thursdays are my, it's time to finish these up. So I'm working on a painting that I started a while back. As you know, this is part 2 of many sunflowers to come. And though you haven't seen the beginning of this painting, like I mentioned in the first video, you should or will be able to work with the sunflowers that I will be creating. And when I'm all done, I'll show you the full painting. So the sunflower that I'm working on here is from the Facebook photo for art. And the photographer is Richard Williams Hayes. So this is his sunflower I'm using, so I want to thank him for that. So we're going to go in. I have the center point that's already done. So for the next hour, I am going to work on the petals. Now for the brushes, again, I use personal preference. Depends upon the mood I'm in, whatever feels good in my hand. I know that there's certain artists who like certain brushes, want the big ones, smaller ones. I just, whatever I'm in the mood, that it just feels right as I'm painting. I will sometimes switch back and forth on my brushes until I find the one that is working for me. So I'm just going to randomly start putting on petals. So this part, after a bit, will get either very exciting or you find it gets very tedious, that if you have to paint one more petal, you're going to scream. And trust me, after I get all of these done, I might just do that. So right now I'm just going to go in and do some blocking. And I can already tell that this brush is not feeling right in my hand, but I'm going to keep working with it. Maybe it'll change up. So I'm using the photo as my reference of not necessarily copying the petals exactly, or at least close to them, because like I said, after a bit, petals just go on and on and on and on. So I'm just going to slowly knock some in here and there and just keep building and working with them. Sometimes it will take a few times around to get them exactly how you want them. Sometimes you pull it off right away with no issues. And yeah, I'm not liking the brush. I'm not liking how it feels coming off. So again, you just keep working it. So again, like I said, this is Wrap Up Thursday. I have many paintings, like I mentioned, that I want to finish up. I have one that is way overdue for a wedding gift that I usually don't do big paintings, and I took on this one and was completely overwhelmed. So this painting will be way overdue. In fact, the couple that I did it for are now going and having their second baby. So by the time I get to that painting, hopefully it'll be before they graduate from college. So sad. But I'm hoping that I'm not the only one that's in that same boat where you start something, you think, oh, I can do this. And it's not that I didn't want to finish. I don't know, I lost the thrill for it, the excitement. I couldn't feel it anymore. So that's why I thought I'm going to start putting these out on YouTube. Maybe talking with y'all, I will be able to accomplish so much more by painting with a friend. So again, I'm just going in and working the petals. Probably all I end up doing is just getting some base color down and then come back in and put a wash over it. And I did kind of have a circle out here to kind of, but to make sure that I do not get too large with them where the petals are not correct. I mean, that they're too large. I mean, sometimes there's one that might shoot out to be a lot larger than the ones next to them, but from what I'm seeing, they're usually pretty uniformed. So I'm using that as a guide. Now I'm putting basically my shadows down, and then I'll come back and brighten up the petals. Oops. And again, I'm working flat again, which if you've been following me enough, I don't have my camera set up or my fancy easel that I had someone build for me. I have it at home, but where I work, I'm able to stop at a certain time during the day and come and paint. I work for myself, so it makes it even nicer. I would love to work for a company where I can just sit and paint all day. So right now I'm just kind of knocking in different sections of where I'm going to be wanting my petals. And again, there's no right way or wrong way in doing this. Work with what's good, works for you. I can tell you in all honesty, once I am done, it'll be a while before I do any more sunflowers. Because this is, it's not that it's just tedious, just very tedious. So right now I'm just working with the shadows to get the shapes and the forms. They're not all nice and have, you know, like some petals are all nice and curved, and each one matches the one next to it. These are kind of all shriveled up and bending over. So I'm going to jump over a little bit, just this petal here keeps catching my eye, so I definitely want to paint him now. Usually I have music on in the background, but I'll be adding music when I'm done. And it depends upon what mood I'm in that I will select that music. So all you're going to do is just keep working it. Again, right now I'm just knocking out the shapes. I'll go back in later once I go around again. Some might go ahead and do it all at one time. Oops. Some of my red is already starting to dry up. I'll put some more on my palette. I put them in plastic sandwich bags with the sponge or wet paper towel to keep them moist. As long as that paper towel stays moist and wet in there, your paint shouldn't stay wet. And it does not say that other word because I know some people don't like that other word, the M word, so I'm not going to say it anymore. Oh, I don't want to offend anybody using. Now the bottom part of the petal closest to the where the seeds are is a little bit more red and burnt umber. So that's how the shadow is casting on those. So my red is not holding up well in the sandwich bags. Let's see if I can salvage them. My two favorite colors to work with is burnt sienna or burnt umber and yellow ochre. There's just something about those two colors. I can do so much with them, but I really enjoy I just like the colors of them, the way they work. So what you want to do is just keep working your petals. Sometimes I think too the reason we stop working on some of our projects is life gets in the way. Sadly, we do have to get up and go to work or do chores around the house. And that keeps us from doing stuff that we really want to do. So I'm going to use a little bit more white to try and knock out more of my petals. Like I said, just keep working and hang out with me, and we'll both get our paintings done. I never like the beginning of my petals. And I know that they're not nice and bright and yellow, but again, I'm going to try and get all my shadows going first. So I might do that today, is go take a few minutes out and just knock out where all the petals are. Because when you stop and look, there's quite a few in there. I've done some flowers in the past, but I did more of a watercolor effect on them and trying to decide where I want to go next. And they turned out really well. I didn't think I would like them. Now they're one of my favorite sunflowers. So do me a favor, if you find that you're liking my technique or just enjoying my painting, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. I promise to have more exciting pieces coming. I'm not saying sunflowers are not exciting, but I do have a few that I've started that I think you might enjoy seeing the finished piece of it. I have a rhino I still need to work on, an octopus, actually 3 different octopuses on, well, 2 are on canvas and 1 is going to be on a wooden chest. So hopefully I'll be getting to that one here over the next few months. Chest, that one I think is going to be fun and yet very challenging. But if it turns out the way I see it in my head, it's going to be a fun piece. I didn't get that big of a chest, but I did get one that I hope will pull off a really cool technique with it. Now slowly, once I get all caught up, I will be doing new paintings, but they'll be based on endangered species, and I might mix it up a little bit with other elements, but my favorite is doing wildlife. But my true favorite that I did get away from was fantasy. I used to love doing dragons, and then I started seeing a few others out there, they're dragons, and it's like, I think I'll step away. They just were so impressive. Mine looks so childlike. But I also took some time away from it, so I wasn't all as involved with it as I should be, or should have been. And then, like anything, all we got to do is go out and practice, practice, practice by painting, painting, painting. Again, I'm just working each petal individually, making sure they have their own separate identity. And I can, like I said before, I can tell that each of these flowers are going to look completely different than the first one, and I'm sure by the last one it's going to look completely different than all the others, because I'll either get a really good knack for this piece, or I'll just be painting it different as I go along, just whatever mood I'm in for that day. How many see in their pieces their mood, whatever, like if they're angry or sad, they see the colors in their work. That's why I know a lot of us paint by music, mood that we're in. Again, I'm just moving around, knocking in. Tea I'm drinking. Right now these petals look a hot mess, and I think sometimes that's why I end up like, just didn't want to mess with them. But we are going to keep moving forward. We're going to make these petals Dance off the page. Okay, sorry. Oh. Glad when all this pollen is out of the air and off my clothes. Again, I'm just laying the basics down. I'm just knocking it out right now. I'm just looking for placement of, and then I'll go back in and add some more detail. I am so sorry. And I did find, which I have to do my videos a little bit different, I had some music playing in the background, just FYI. Certain music, they will, forget the term, but they wouldn't let one of the last sunflower, I think it was, go through, or it might have been my toucan, because one of the songs in the background, they were able to pick up the lyrics. Well, I guess certain countries, like Japan and China, and a few others overseas, restricted that content of music, so they blocked it for certain countries, but they said it was still on YouTube, so which is fine, but I really don't want to cause any problems or delays, so I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more, because I do like music playing in the background when I'm working. Get lost in thought, and if I wasn't doing this, I would, I don't know about the rest of you, I barely talk when I'm painting, so there might be times once I really get going I won't be saying as much. And I do have the office space that I share, so you will every now and then hear my neighbor, which I think in one of my videos they brought me dinner. So I'm not going to say no to food. I don't know about y'all, but hey, you're bringing me dinner and don't have to fix myself any. That's wonderful. I mean, it actually was really good too. I didn't realize how hungry I was. So hopefully you don't hear anything too bad. Now the only thing, like I said, I have to watch is how large my petals are getting, that I don't have it off balance. Now I know up here I can add a few more petals that I haven't put in yet to compensate for the ones that are getting large down here. But the plus is that there is a way, instead of going in and painting over everything and removing it, just make adjustments by like adding more petals in behind to give it, to make sure that, not necessarily that it's circular, but that it doesn't look not natural. Because sometimes that can get disturbing, like, why is that sticking out so much more than the others? So again, I'm still going in and just knocking everything out. So with me having to have to keep my canvas down, I am working sideways, which has some advantages to it and some disadvantages. I'm also one of those artists who like to turn my canvases upside down, sideways, whatever it's going to take for me to create the piece that I'm working on. I think it's because I never worked on a easel before. We did in college, but I found when I was able just to put a big board up on my lap or on one of those chairs you would sit on where the board would lean against the back, and between your legs you kind of straddle like a horse. I found I was more comfortable with that. I seemed to be able to really be a part of my painting when I paint, because sometimes I like to get up pretty close and work. Not sure why, but it's just the way it is. But anyways, so sometimes an easel or even the table I have at home, it's a tilted one that was custom made for me, can throw me off a little bit. But I'm going to do whatever I can to just make it all work that I'm comfortable with. So I guess what I'm trying to say is work with whatever is easy for you. You don't try and be like everybody else. My ways of painting will definitely not be like anybody else's way of painting. And sometimes like I try to tell my students, I can't always explain what it is that I'm doing or why I did it that way. It's just a feel or years of painting that I got comfortable with, or I just become one with the painting. Again, I'm still just knocking things out. Now, because this sunflower is facing downward and away, the petals on this side are going to kind of disappear a little bit. So, and see how I'm already changing things up. I'm finding that just going in and kind of sketching things out with my paint seems to be working for me today. So the only thing I can suggest to you is like picking up an instrument. Find time, which is so hard. Again, that's why I have so many unfinished paintings. Try and find time to paint every day or draw every day. My goal is to slowly build up where I am doing something every day, but I'm not going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to be incorporating some drawing in. I do have some paints, different mediums that I've been wanting to try. So I'll be experimenting with those. I have seen other people already using them, but that's them, and this is me. So again, just keep watching your reference photo, making sure you're getting as close as you can to, you know, what you want to accomplish here. So again, I decided as I was working on this, I have a right, I'm a woman. I changed my mind. Doing what I was doing up here wasn't feeling right. This feels right. So I'm just going to go in and start. Continue knocking out my petals. This way too, I think by doing this, it doesn't seem so much like a blank canvas. You ever sit down and look at a canvas and say, what am I going to do today? Sadly, unfortunately, I'm not there yet, which is, I guess is not a bad thing. I have so many things I want to paint. So I'm thankful that I haven't gotten there on the, what do I want to paint today? It's more like, which one do I do? What am I in the mood to paint? What medium I want to work with? Lately I've been working more with acrylics. For a long time I did a lot of colored pencil, and so the acrylic, I've been really painting a lot more with that over the last few months. And there's a few more I want to do too, but there are some pieces I want to do and get back to my colored pencils. I guess the thing in colored pencils too is it takes a little bit longer to work with, but once you get going on it, you know, you can go pretty quickly. Alright, so I've come around to the other side of my flower. Alright, so that roughly is what my flower is going to look like. Now it's time to go in and just really fine tune it and get it closer to finish. Alright, so I think I'm going to change my brush up a little bit. There is some greenery and everything that's going to go in here, but we'll put those in later. So again, I'm going to start with my shadowing, and I'm just going to keep building up because I didn't knock out my background, so my background is going to get knocked out as I lay my paint down, so it is going to have to get laid a little bit thicker. But also too, when you go in and add some white to your color, it's going to make things easier to knock out when you slightly blend it in. Again, I'm not looking to finish this with whole thing within the hour. I know what by the time I get to I have 3, maybe 4 more. I'm sure by the time I get to the 4th one, it'll go even smoother. Won't take as long because I've been painting on these for a little bit and I already have a feel for it. So when you look at a sunflower, especially the one I'm looking at here, there's a lot of red going on. And you just keep working it until you're happy with it. Again, like I said, there's no right or wrong way that I know of, because everybody does everything a little bit different. But at the end of the day, just have fun with what you're doing. And again, what's so great about acrylic is that you can go in, let it dry really good, and you can go fix what you don't like. I know when I start this one painting, like I said, for the wedding gift that I mentioned earlier, I know once my girlfriend sees it out there on Facebook, when I publish it, I know she's going to be tickled pink that I'm finally, I think it's more her husband than her, but it is long overdue, and it's time to start finishing up these overdue paintings. Now this one, I believe when I get done, and after I have it for a little bit, I'll probably, I think it'll be for this year, allow them to auction this off for homeless vets. The proceeds that come from all this auction that they do at this golf course here in Georgia goes to, I believe, house them or something like that. I don't know if it's housing or medical care or provisions. I need to look into that. But when that happens, I'll definitely share all that with you guys. I know that I offered this last year. That's how long I've been working on this, or how I did really good at the beginning, and then I just fell off the grid with it. But to be honest with you, I did start this to be something completely different. I don't even remember what it was, but it was to start practicing with clouds and stuff. That much I do know. I wanted to try something different, have a different technique or creating them. With teaching, I like to mix things up and learn to teach my students, and sometimes I have to do that separately by myself and then bring it back to them or try and figure out, okay, how can I teach this? How can I teach that? And simplify it. But at the same time, making sure, excuse me, I'm sorry, what I like and it works for me, because if I don't like it, then I don't want to teach it that way. So I'm just going in, and there's a lot of shadow down on the base here. And I'm trying not to get too muddy and making sure I follow each petal. This is where it gets time consuming, because you can't just go in and blob it all together. You do have to treat each petal individually, at least for me, at least for what I'm doing here. This one, for each petal or each sunflower, I know it's going to take me probably 2 or 3 hours for each petal, or I keep saying each petal because that's what I'm working on, for each sunflower. So I'd have loved to have had this one done within the hour, but look at all these petals. There's just, realistically, it's not going to happen if I want to do a good job. So again, don't rush. If you find that that's what's, you know, you keep telling yourself, I want it done now, I wanted it done yesterday, or stop picking complicated pieces. No, I'm kidding. Because that's what I'm doing. So yeah, so just keep doing what you're doing. So as you're picking your pieces, do or try and figure out how long is it going to take you. How long do you want it to take? If you're not in a hurry to get these paintings done, then take your time. Don't worry about the time crunch. I would love to get commission work for what I'm doing sometimes, but again, when you're doing commission work, there's a time schedule. You have to meet that. So again, can you handle that? Are you able to handle time crunches? Sometimes I can. It depends upon what it is. But you know, we're, as artists, we're our worst enemies, that we wait until the last minute, or we make it more difficult than what it really is. So again, just keep working this. Again, if you're doing a sunflower, look at each petal. See how the shadow's casting on it. Sometimes if you really look at it, sometimes the shadow is of a petal next to it that you need to incorporate in. Again, when you're doing any kind of painting, don't look at the whole painting. Look at the shapes that's happening inside the painting. Because if you just look at the shapes and just keep following, before long, the painting is done. Because everything is a shape. You just keep working and working that shape. And eventually it does all come together, believe it or not. When I'm working at home, I'll put on one of my long videos, which I like listening to, is Lord of the Rings, or yes, I listen to Harry Potter, but I've seen him for so much that I could see it in my mind when they're talking, or you know, wherever they're at in the movie, that I don't have to watch it. But I find it occupies my mind, that I get more done, and I'm not so stressing over making sure everything looks correct. So that's another thing I always tell my students: do not overwork it. It's so easy to go in and keep blending and blending and blending, and then all that work you put into it right at the beginning, you liked it, but then you over blended and it's gone. That texture, that look, and you got to start all over again. So sometimes what happens is that you are creating more work for yourself when you over blend. So put the paint down a little bit. If you're not sure, if you like where the placement's at, just put it down and then leave it alone and walk away, and then come back to it. Because you might find what you just did works perfect, but it might just need a little bit more highlights here and there. And I like seeing some of my paint strokes. This is not a photograph. So I want people to walk up and see my paint strokes, see the paint and layers that I put down. If you go back and look at all the old masters, you could see all their paint strokes. You could see everything in it. But again, it's up to you how you want your painting to look. This is just me and what I enjoy and what I like. So again, I'm just going around, starting to lay down my second layer. Some of these have a little bit more layers on them. And I'm just going to keep building and building until I'm happy with the way they look. Now granted, I'm going to tell you, this looks nothing like my very first one. And the more I look at my first one, depending on where I'm at when I get to the very last one, I may go back and make a lot of changes on the petals. But again, we're gonna, work in progress. So again, right now I'm just laying down more color. This will take me another hour to work on it. So this part of the flower, the sunflower, I will be coming back to. So I think within the next hour of it, I should be close to finishing it. But if I'm not, that's okay. I'm working on it, and that's the objective for working on Wrap It Up Thursday. Wrap it up. Let's get these paintings, drawings, whatever, finished. And we're not, at least I'm not looking to get it done within the hour. It would be nice, but this is huge. This is one of these really long panels, so I know it's going to take me a little bit longer to finish up. Now granted, seeing my list of what is to come next, I want to get this done. That's the one that I've started a few months ago. Oh, it's going to be awesome, and it's something in the sea, and but again, I was not in the right frame of mind. Don't you hate that? And I know it's not for everybody that they get burned out or lose track, but I do. Or I get, not that I get lazy, once I sit down and start painting, it's so refreshing and I feel so much better. So I don't know why I make it more difficult for myself. Now, a lot of this doesn't have as much red in it. There's some red, but I kind of like the way the red looks. Putting a little bit of my own style into it. Still trying to stay true to the sunflower, but I'm also trying to make it my own. So I'll just keep working it and keep working it. I know my hour is coming up of stopping for the day, but I'm really feeling good. I could keep painting, but I don't want to get back to where I get going and I'm all excited, and then eventually I stop again. So how is y'all's paintings coming along? Do you have something you're working with me on? Just, how are you doing a sunflower? Let me know. And again, this is just more color that I'm laying down. I'll start getting even more detailed. Probably once this section is done, I'll go back in and just add a little bit more fine tuning to it. And then put the greenery in and move on to the next one. They're going to be smaller, but they still have multiple tons of petals. Like I said, I like sunflowers. It's amazing how much others love sunflowers, but when you're painting it, after a point, you're like, okay, I'm done. at least for a little bit, because there is, oops, too pink. I do have another form of sunflower I'm going to do, which will be on Wednesday. And that one I'm kind of looking forward to because of them being dead. And just the way I had them dry out, they just felt so amazing that I could see a painting, like a still life. I am not big into still lifes. I'm going to tell y'all right now, I don't love still lifes. But if I come across something that I think I can make something out of it, I'm going to. But I have to say that since I've started doing this over the weekend, I couldn't wait to get back in to paint. Now, granted, I could have painted at home, but I'm kind of liking the way of leaving my environment to come out and paint. I could easily do it at home, but I don't know. There's just something about the way I set up my studio here at my friend's location that it feels like I don't know, like a breath of fresh air, that I can leave the house and go to my art studio to paint. And that's my objective eventually down the road, is to have a house that has a detached garage, or I'm able to build a studio on that I can leave and go out and enjoy. Sometimes that in itself just makes a difference. I have no distractions. There's no TV here, though I could use my phone for watching, but I'm using my phone to videotape, so I'm not able to watch anything. And I can close the door, and I'm kind of isolated to where all I can have to do is focus on my painting once my work stuff is done. I freelance, so I'm a computer graphic designer. So once that's done and out of the way, I'm able to take a step back, pull up my drawing table, and start painting. So again, I'm just working the colors in, and I'll come back in next wrap up Thursday and get a little bit more detailed into them, because it's still kind of flat. It's still, especially over here, I still have a lot of work ahead of me. But again, I have enjoyed hanging out with you guys. Hopefully you're finishing up some pieces along with me, or you're seeing a technique that I'm doing that will help you paint sunflowers, because I'm not really, I guess, telling you guys how to do it or how I'm doing it. I just keep working and building it up. But maybe you might see something in that I'm doing that you're like, oh, I like that style, or I like that technique, or... But in the end, I'm finding just have fun with it. And if you're not feeling it, if it's not coming together, take a step back. Get something to drink. Step outside and get some fresh air, and then walk back in. Turn it upside down. Paint upside down. Or paint sideways like I am here. Here I've gotten too much black in it, so I'm going to see if I can clean some of that up, or I'll just wait until it dries and it's easy to go back in once it's dry to fix it. But I will be adding a lot of yellow in it next week once this is really nice and dry. And then I'll build up some of the yellow to make some of the sections brighter. So all I'm doing again is I'm just following the shape of my, oh look, I already got a bug on my flowers. Summer is, or not summer, spring is in the air. The bugs are starting to come out. Not sure where that came from. But anyways, just keep looking at your shapes. Keep building, keep building. By the time I get to the last one, I will have figured out how to paint these, and I might go back to my very first one and make some changes to it. Alright, I need to leave that alone because I just keep, I'm starting to get muddy. See how the colors are starting to get really muddy in this section right here, so that's what you have to be very careful with. In order to do that, you just leave it alone and go to another area and come back to it later. Again, and I'm just one petal at a time. And remember to keep your brush slightly damp, not sopping wet. You don't want it to run. You want the paint to attach to the canvas but not run. But also your paint runs a lot easier when your brush is slightly damp. Since this is a water medium. Alright, so I know we're getting close to the end here. This is going to take probably another 2 hours. I never sit down and figure out how many hours it takes or how long each piece took to do. I need to do that one time. I think it's too much like clocking in and out of a job. That's why I haven't done it. Getting to a good stopping point. Just want to kind of come in and lay a little bit more color down in here. I'm using a little bit more just yellow just to again knock some more of the background out. So when I come back in on it Thursday, I'll be ready to add some more color in. And again, this is just a build up because I am competing with the background because I did not knock it out. And you can go in and knock everything out first. Again, there's no right or wrong, personal preference, how you want to paint. So I think I'm at a good stopping point now. I keep saying that and I keep painting. All right. So I think this is a good spot to stop. So I still have a lot of detail and color to go back into. I have a lot to just fine tune before I move on to adding the greenery to it and then call this sunflower done. But again, this is just you just keep working and building. So eventually this will be one painting that I can actually say it is wrapped up for Thursday. So again, I want to thank you for joining me. This is Tammy, your artist, on this particular sunflower project. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to give me a thumbs up, just to say that you like it, or you know, you just like it. And don't forget to subscribe. All right, thanks again, and I hope to see you next Thursday for my wrap-up Thursday on old paintings that we've started and never finished. Guys, have a great day. Until next time, bye-bye.